Okay.
I don't know why.
You were asleep?
Do you remember we always used to pretend to fall asleep mid-sentence? I would start telling you a story and you would do this. I'd be like, so Michael, I wanted to tell you about last night. And for some reason, that was always funny. Always funny to...
What about we also used to do, hey, did you try the burritos at Crafty?
Somehow, and you can keep a straight face and I can't. So right before we would start rolling, Michael would go, Becki, and I'd go, what? Did you have the bean dip at craft service? And they'd say action, and I'd be standing there, my eyes get really watery. You could tell I'm about to laugh.
I always see it in the show.
And then
too.
I would get in trouble, and you'd stand there like you didn't do anything at all.
I'm a rock.
You have a really good ability. Okay, wait, back to work.
Okay, listen.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Becki Newton.
And I'm Michael Yuri. We are still ugly.
Still ugly.
Yes, we're still ugly.
Gosh, we're still ugly.
After all these years.
Thank you for listening. This has been so exciting. We're having such a good time.
It's so much fun.
Revisiting.
It's also shockingly emotional.
Yes.
And one would think after all this time, it's something we could sort of look at from the outside, but watching it and sitting with you, it's like it was last week and I'm feeling everything all over
I know,
again.
all the feels. Thank you for listening. Please rate, subscribe. Check us out on YouTube if you want to see.
Do all the things one does.
How great we still look after all these years. We're still ugly, but also still really, really cute.
Hanging in.
Yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster going back because it's so joyful.
Yes.
I'm so touched. I'm also so glad, this is we're so lucky that we have this time capsule of our 20s this way.
Yes, and also it's not just 20s. I think you and I, there's a before this and an after this, right? It was Ugly Betty was the thing that changed our careers for sure, but our lives and the trajectory.
Totally.
And so I think when I watch it, I remember the me then that was so uncertain about what it all meant and how much I clung to you. And it's like we're still sitting here and I'm still clinging to you. And as we watch this, it's like still ugly, still clinging. But yet it really does remind me, and my attachment to you, I think, was always this feeling of like, this is all real, right? Like that happened, right? And you do when something I think that's so transformative. Having someone that was there too makes me think I didn't make it all up.
Oh.
Isn't that,
That's beautiful. But also having a record, being able to look at this show and see, and the memories are flooding back. And I'm still so curious as we continue to watch the show, because these first episodes, I remember watching them over and over again back then because I was so...
We did, and we would watch them. It's different. We used to watch these as a cast and crew, 250 people would line up on chairs and they would show them on Thursdays at lunch.
Yeah.
And we got to see this the day, I think it was the day it would air.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'd watch this with the rest of the world. It's not like that now with TV. You can always sort of see something in advance, but we were watching this pretty much with everyone else, nervous about how people would receive it.
Yeah.
I remember going to work the next day. I was like, what do people think of the episodes? And
do you watch Lincoln Lawyer
when it comes out on Netflix with everyone else?
Oh, so that's I do that with.
Yeah, and I also enjoy that about it because I'm like, I like being part of the audience. So anyway, this particular one, Swag. It was called Swag.
It was called Swag, and it was written by Jim Perriott, who was our first showrunner.
One of the nicest men.
Such
in the
a sweet
whole
guy.
World. Yes,
he was the EP. So this is kind of interesting, I think. Silvio, our creator, who we lost, was the sweetest, most wonderful guy. But he was really young. He was under 30.
He was a baby.
Which is really young to be a, showrunner creator.
A showrunner, but also such a recognized and celebrated and groundbreaking showrunner.
Absolutely. But because he was so young, the network always made him work with a seasoned EP. And we had a few over the years.
Right.
But Jim Perriott was this vet.
Anchor. Yeah, he was such an anchor, I remember. Very unflappable.
Yeah. And really nice. And anyway, he wrote this episode and Tamara Davis directed this episode. And this was a weird, and I still don't really know why, but it didn't air in order. We shot it 4th.
And it didn't air until, we shot it 4th and it aired 11th or something like that.
That's right. It didn't air until January 4th.
And I vaguely remember, and again, we were so green that I didn't understand. Anytime there was a problem with an episode, I was like, it's my fault, I'm fired. So I remember because the show was so well received so quickly, I think it added a lot more pressure to it. Yeah. And it was still so new. We were all still figuring so much out. They didn't want to get it wrong.
Right.
So I think if ever there was an episode where the tone or the story, whatever wasn't working, they really didn't want to put this out there with all these eyes on it.
Right.
So who knows what the problem was? I do know when I watch it, did I just hear your stomach?
Did you hear my tummy?
Did you have the burrito? So I think when I watch this, so I sort of forget all of that.
Yeah.
When I watch this episode, it feels like that's when we started having fun. In today's episode, everyone is broke. Betty's dad can't afford his medication. Daniel's expense accounts get frozen.
And Christina won't give me that damn Gucci bag. Wilhelmina tries to trick Daniel by having me give Betty a bogus accounting form.
But it comes back to bite her in the Brazilian butt lift. The office is transformed into a runway by famous minimalist designer Oshi.
And Betty and Daniel somehow get away with taking him to a White Castle in Jersey. Champagne, anyone? It's actually White Tassel? Or Hassel?
It was White Tassel, because they couldn't say White Castle. It was clearly White Castle, but they couldn't say it.
So funny.
Just on to some broader story points. And Michael, you're welcome.
Whoa. You're wearing... Wait a minute.
Don't look at me. I'm ashamed.
So wait, are you saying... Hold on. It's like a listener. Becki Newton just put on the granniest glasses I have ever seen.
What? Okay,
they're great. Listen, they're great.
I want to talk about this. This is important before we get into swag. Only close up sometimes do I need glasses, but I keep buying ones that are wrong. So I bought these other ones that were like black and cute, and my daughter goes, "Hey, mommy, you look like a really cool witch." I was like, not wearing those. Then I went to a fancy place and was like, what are like some cool glasses? And I bought these. But you know who I realized I look like? Remember Ruthie? Hey, Betty, nice sweater. I'm Ruthie.
Have not thought about Ruthie.
I like your sweater. Did you get it at Dress for Less? Cute bunny. I'm Ruthie. I bought glasses to make me look like the nerdy assistant.
Listener, so Ruthie was an alter ego.
I'm going to take them off. I brought these so that I could put them on just to like really confuse you. Blink a lot.
I can't believe you're blowing my mind with so many things. First of all, you're old. Second of all, you need glasses now.
But I don't really need them. But you know how other people slip them on? You're like, ooh, it's Michelle Pfeiffer. I just look like
You do look like Michelle Pfeiffer. You have a Michelle Pfeiffer thing. You've always had
other people put glasses on and they're suddenly cooler. I put them on and I'm Ruthie.
Well, you did pick the glasses.
Is it just that I don't pick the right ones?
I might have to
Tell me
see
the
other. Where does Becki go? Why is Ruthie here?
I'm going to go back to not being able to read.
I completely forgot about Ruthie.
Well,
Ruthie was one of the... I was really jealous of Ruthie.
You were jealous of Ruthie the person?
I was jealous that you got to play Ruthie.
I was going to ask if you ever felt jealousy, because what I was going to say was, we've never been jealous. So you were jealous at the idea...
Jealous of you. Jealous that
the chance to like have this alter.
To play a... Yeah. Because I was always pitching that Marc had a good twin.
I remember that pitch. I loved that pitch.
There was like an evil twin.
It would be so cool if you had a twin.
Marc was the evil one. But we did kind of get to do it in the web series.
We did. We played British people.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's an episode or a few episodes with Ruthie. Have you seen more than one episode?
Ruthie was this other human that existed at another magazine that thought Betty was the coolest person in the world.
And it was played by Becki Newton.
Basically, it was just me in these glasses with no makeup on. So not much of a transformation. That's what I actually look like. Okay, babe, back to swag.
My mind is
Mode prepares for the arrival of the enigmatic fashion designer Oshi. Remember, so he's this designer and he's coming and he's this Japanese guy and oh my God, we're all so excited.
And he loves champagne and he loves everything to be very minimal and he loves to be shown a good time.
Also going on in the episode though, it's the big swag. The thing at these magazines is that every once in a while they clear out all the clothing that's been there for the shoots and the people that work there get to claim it.
I sort of think that there's a lot of action in this episode. There's a lot of scenes where like people are running and like throwing things, and I sort of think that that's why the episode got shelved, because it was a little over the top.
Yeah, and also just there was so much happening that wasn't necessarily. It was unclear like how it moved this story forward.
Yeah.
Although watching it back, one thing I really did notice was this idea of economics. So at Mode, we have swag, these $1,000 purses that suddenly are just like handed away. But in the Suarez family, what was going on is like Ignacio couldn't even pay for his medication.
Right.
And Betty's sitting there getting her measly paycheck in this world that was so ridiculous, like expense accounts at magazines to take Oshi out, thousands and thousands of dollars just to take him out to dinner to impress him.
Yeah.
And
gosh, a lot happened.
A lot. So I think it was also just like, it was so much, but thematically, I at the time didn't even realize just this idea of like expenses and how much waste there was at the magazine, but what the currency means. Like it always went back to like, what does it mean when you're carrying that Gucci bag? What does that say about you? Does it change something about you? And I do remember during this time, because the show was starting to get popular, people used to give us things, which is why I always gave Marc and Amanda my clothes. Because I was like, it's too many clothes.
Yeah, we started getting free stuff.
Free stuff, which was a funny thing.
Yeah, it was funny.
And also, as someone who didn't necessarily ever have extra money to sort of buy things, to get free amazing jeans, was a strange but incredible perk to all of this.
Yeah.
And weirdly meta, because our characters on the show are getting free stuff and and in real life, it was so strange.
It's very funny in this show, in this episode, how they say like anybody at Mode would spot a knockoff.
Yeah.
And then in the end, spoiler, she gives Marc the knockoff.
Right. So
he doesn't know.
But that happens all the time. Like, you know, Amanda's like, I don't eat carbs, and then scarfing potato chips, right? So it shows a certain amount of hypocrisy of what we're supposed to feel and what we're supposed to notice versus what we actually pay attention to. Okay, Daniel makes Betty prepare his expense report. She did not get the memo telling her about this responsibility. She goes to Marc and Amanda for help. Wilhelmina insists that Marc give Betty a copy of Wilhelmina's expense report.
And we find out later it's a dummy expense. It's not accurate.
It's all basically trying to set up Betty to look like an idiot and fail.
Marc had been
hiding receipts for Wilhelmina.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
But also the memo that Betty was supposed to receive, Marc intercepted somehow.
So she'd look bad. She turns in his expense report, modeled on Wilhelmina's. Henry from accounting shows up in this episode.
Henry Grubstick.
Chris Gorham, Henry Grubstick. And it's funny how much you watch back and you know what's coming. I'm like, from the minute he showed up on screen, it's like, that's Betty's man. Like they're supposed to be together. And when he turns around in his little dorky wheelie chair and Betty sees him, and I don't even think in that moment Betty knew, but it was just, we all knew as an audience, like, oh. And Walter's following her around like a puppy this whole time, trying to get her back. And Betty's just trying to hang at the magazine. But we first see...
Chris is so good on the show.
He's amazing. I worked with him again on Lincoln Lawyer.
I know.
Recently, he played a murderer. I was like, no, you're Henry Grubstick. And I'm Amanda, even though I'm playing this other lawyer.
But what a truly perfect piece of casting. And that Silvio saw in him.
He wore glasses.
He wore glasses.
Put mine back. He wore them.
He wore them all the time.
But on him, he didn't look old.
It's not just that
Is it that they have dirt on them? Like, what is it?
It's the size. It's the
You don't think it's like, I'm so oversized? Like,
no, you look like
no
my
big
grandma.
deal.
You look like Dolly Benazzi.
I'm going to keep putting these on. And I think by the end of this, you're going to go, no, those are the right glasses.
We also, I believe this is the episode where we meet Ignacio's HMO, played by Cleo King, who is the woman on the phone and Betty goes to see her.
Yes.
Cleo is an amazing actor who I did a Broadway show with.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, how funny is that?
Much later.
But we do start to see, and that's where I sort of spoke to the economics of it, like what Betty's going through at home just to get her dad his medication. So that's a real problem. And then we go back to Mode where it is this sort of like ridiculous, excessive.
Yes.
We're fighting over shoes in a closet.
Problems.
And I think they always found a way to put that side by side. The other thing, though, I found interesting that was that throughout this episode, there was also this resistance on the Suarez family's part to let Betty change. So if you notice, Betty goes home and there's always this implication of like, oh, you're changing. You're a Mode girl now.
Right.
And so it's both, it's almost like people are uncomfortable when someone flies. And it works both ways. Like Walter, meanwhile, cheated on her.
Yeah.
Keeps showing up. And she goes home and he's like sitting at their Tuesday dinner. And she's like, he cheated on me. Why is he sitting here?
Yeah.
And they're like, Because it's Walter. He always comes on Tuesdays. So the idea is that like...
That's interesting. I never really thought about that.
This is where the show was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it shows that they're also imperfect. Right? That nobody's perfect. It's not like, well, the Suarezes always do the right thing. It's like, well, they're kind of used to Walter and they don't want things to change too much. And even though they want Betty to follow her dreams, they're so quick to be like, oh, that's modi of you. You could see her struggle with liking a Gucci purse. What does that mean about her?
Right.
Like, is it okay to love a Gucci purse? And does that make you a bad person or a shallow person?
Meanwhile, Justin is,
I love
so ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting, and I went through it even personally all the time, where like, the more we were around, all the makeup and the hair, you start to sort of buy into it.
Right.
And maybe look a little different. Like when you are getting your hair and makeup done every day for work and people finally helping us like put on the right clothes.
Sure.
Of course you start to look and act a little different. And how does that feel to people around you? Like it's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah. And I noticed it watching it back. I noticed that the family's reception of Betty as she got more involved in Mode, there's a bit of an eye roll. A little like, oh, Mode again, or Mode kept you late. You care about them more than us. And like, she's always in that struggle.
Yeah. It's such a, the haves and the have-nots, the class system. This show was always so on top of that. Talking about the ways that we innately gravitate towards, but also, I've talked about this, like this proximity to wealth thing, where it's like, once you get a taste of it, it changes, it sort of changes.
Well, and you saw Betty when Christina gave her the bag, it was like, it was this amazing, beautiful moment.
And of course, they make it, the writers made it mean so much more because Betty's mother had a bag like that.
Right. So again, they connected it to emotion.
Right.
Whereas the Modis were connected to status.
Yeah.
So for them, it was like the status of having this and what it would mean and what you could trade it for. So you gave that great little speech about how fashion is currency.
Yeah.
So during when they clean out the closet, if you get the right thing, it can get you into the right party.
Right.
Betty, what I loved about Betty, she actually genuinely loved fashion for the beauty of it, for the artistic expression of it, the story.
Well, she's such a writer, journalist. She's always looking at the story.
Yeah, so when she held the bag and it made her feel a certain way, I liked all of that. I like how every time you think it's one thing, it challenges you.
Do you know what I say to myself every episode when I'm watching it out loud?
What?
My God, Anna Ortiz is a good actor.
Incredible. She is so
effortless.
Talk about the complexity, though. She never plays the same thing. It's always the complexity of it. She supports Betty, but questions Betty. It's never one or the other, and that's why I think these characters that they just kept us guessing, which is why they stayed interesting. Because 88 episodes, if it's one note all the time, it gets really boring really fast.
Yeah.
And I think she right away just hooked into so many things and had fun with it, but also really grounded. She's also really hysterical.
Hysterical.
She's so funny.
And can break your heart.
Yes.
Okay. This mysterious phone call, the mysterious woman keeps calling. Daniel.
Has anyone ever just called you and you're like, lose my number? And then like, here's the thing, nowadays, can't you just block people?
Of
like
course.
back then,
there's so much like
someone could just call an office all day. Like, couldn't you just sort of delete? So it's funny, like I guess you just can't stalk people the same way these days.
Phones are so funny. It's so funny watching
like, it's her again. Like, how would you solve that today? Someone keeps calling.
Block it.
Block it. They couldn't block.
I mean, I feel like there's certain people that you can't even get on the phone.
Right.
I mean, who talks on the phone?
So you could just call up Mode Magazine.
She had a direct line.
Direct line, like in the yellow pages.
It's so funny.
It is.
But we bought it.
We did. No, and it made sense then.
It made sense then.
Like her again. Okay.
I love that Bradford's always calling her. He rolls up and he rolls down the window and he's like, Betty. And she's like, me?
Yeah. And he always just roll. Does he just drive around all day? Does he work from his car?
I need to see you at 10:30.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I like his voice. Okay. Oshi arrives and at the office, Daniel panics. How is he going to afford? So Daniel's expenses were taken away. How is he going to entertain this man and impress him? Because he also buys into this idea that it's not just relationships. It's about how you wine and dine people.
Right. Yeah. And do you remember how much fun we had with those actors.
And that was, I think, when you and I were paired together for the first time. When we started getting, I think we had multiple scenes in this episode where you and I were walking down the hallway. Didn't service the plot in any way.
No, and
just
a lot
like,
of it got cut.
Meet you.
Well, this is what I remember.
Tell me what you remember, because this is when it all started.
It was it's a little bit later in the episode when they do the fashion show down the runway. And I actually think, I remember hearing when this episode got shelved, I remember hearing someone say it was too over the top. Betty crawling down the tube.
Yes.
It does push the limits of what we believe Betty understands.
Yes.
Because Betty is very smart.
Right.
And she would know that she was crawling through a runway presentation.
Although the presentation was happening at work.
In the middle of the
middle of the day, which isn't normal. So this is the thing with this show, is just when you're like, that doesn't make sense. Well, none of it makes sense.
Right.
So, but I think they were very smart to go like, okay, we don't want the audience to just give up on us. Like, we really need them to be there with us and be on this journey with us. I don't know about you, but anytime I heard people talking about episodes being too over the top, I always thought I was getting fired and it was my fault. Because we were so much part of the over the top, I always worried.
And there were a couple times when we were like pulled aside.
Do you remember when we were pulled aside?
We got pulled aside.
And were we spoken to separately or together?
Together.
I remember, see, this is what people don't realize. It was the time of our lives, but I think emotionally, we were both trying so hard to give it our all, but we were spoken to often. It was
probably around this time.
It was, because it was just, like, I think it had just started airing. It was like...
Or maybe it was after...
It was teetering.
It might have been after the next one.
It's the flip side of so many people were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I could see how much fun we were having. But there was also this idea of don't get carried away. And I think that was a really important note, because when I watch people on screen that are having so much fun but I feel excluded.
Right.
So it was like, I think those were really valuable lessons at the time, to just be aware. This isn't a performance. This is your characters, and it's good to play, but you have to keep it grounded. But I remember crying. I remember when I would get pulled aside. I probably called you, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's when we first really, I think, broke through our facade of like, this is so silly. And I remember saying to you, like, I'm really nervous that I'm going to get fired.
Right. Or that we were going to get fired, or like that we were going to that our characters are going to get small.
Or just like punished, but not punished, but like the idea of not doing our jobs well.
Or that it would stop being fun. That was the thing that I was like, if they mess this up, if they get in here and meddle with us. But it wasn't, like, there was no one person. It was never like,
I think it was a worry of how much is too much. And that if you didn't worry about that on this show, when did you worry about it?
TV shows are made by committee. So,
but we made people nervous. On the inside, especially before the world received it, it was like, I don't know if that's normal.
But in this episode, Swag, they had us sitting next to each other in the fashion show down the tube. Yeah. And I remember this is the scene where we had a couple of lines back and forth. It's all cut. It's not in the episode.
All of it. We kept going.
But there was a couple of lines back and forth that we had on an isolated shot, and it turned into we made it like 10 lines.
We did. We kept going.
And Jim Perriott, to his credit, the writer of this episode, he said, make sure you get that as a single, because these two are becoming a duo.
And then when I remember we'd walk down the hallway, like, even I noticed in this, we decided that we were always linked. I was always touching you. I still do. Yeah. But like, anytime we'd walk together, I'd grab your arm. Yeah. So it was this idea that these are actually, it's like one person. Right. And it happened right away. I think so much of it was me like, stay close to me all the time.
Because my legs are the length of your entire body.
And I was always on stilts that were this high. So I was like, tick, 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 tick. And so you were kind of carrying me down the hallway.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like to keep pace. We would hold on to each other.
Yeah. And it did, I noticed it though, like where it's like you became a little bit of the security blanket, but without even thinking of it, if we were together, I was always grabbing your arm, like hanging on for dear life. And later, I don't know what episode it was, you started talking to me really close together. Yes. Every time you would, so you'd be like, you say, Amanda. And then I would
touch noses.
But it was, and like I would try so hard not to laugh at you. So it's like if they put us together, it was like magnets. Yeah. So, okay.
I also remember,
hold on. Betty discovers there are accounting irregularities, and Wilhelmina charged the company for a Brazilian butt lift.
This is very funny.
Very funny, and of course she did. Like, of course she did, and that's fine. She called it props and extras. Furious, Bradford suspends Wilhelmina's account and Daniel's. And so Betty, yet again, saves the day because they realize, okay, we don't have money to entertain Oshi after this big fashion thing. I know. We're going to take them out to Queens.
Yeah.
To White Tassel. Let's be clear, it's White Castle because they're round and white, and just minimal. Like Oshi's.
Yeah. Oshi's aesthetic. There was also a whole storyline where Oshi's assistant, who was that wonderful actor, who was his assistant and translator, and Mark developed a romance.
What?
Yeah, there was a whole flirtation between them that's all cut.
I loved that guy, by the way. I watched him, I was like, who is that guy? I think I've seen him in other things. Yeah, he's really good.
He's been around. I wonder what his name is. We should... Jameson Yang.
Well done, Jameson.
Well done, Jameson. Wherever you are, you were awesome in this episode.
So
the guy who played Oshi was also good. But
it was all like.
But there was they'd sort of layered in, and in fact, then at the end of and now it makes no sense. But at the end of the episode, Mark is with Oshi's entourage.
I kind of remember that.
Goes to White Castle with them, and you see a glimpse of me being disappointed that Betty saved the day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make sense that
why he's there.
Yeah, because when
you're Wilhelmina's assistant.
Right, when Wilhelmina gets busted and taken to task and removed from the situation for the Brazilian butt lift, Mark should have gone with her, but instead he goes with Oshi.
Well, and that was part of where they were trying to figure out, like you even pointed out, there was a lot of shots of the donut.
Yeah.
We never saw Amanda sitting there until episode 6 or 7. So it's like, I think they were trying to figure out, because we weren't supposed to be there, like, where do we live? Where do our characters live?
Yeah.
And in the first few episodes, and until now, I'm always around. At first I was around Daniel because I was trying to get ahead, sleep with him, all of that. And then it was like I was around the fashion action. But I don't think we figured out where our homes were yet. Right. And we were never really seen in the same spot. You were hovering in Wilhelmina's office quite a bit. But it's interesting that we hadn't found our little spaces on the sets. And I think that comes in the next few episodes.
I love in this episode, there's a lot of great Modi work.
Oh, yes.
The Modis, who were the background actors that you see. There's like a regular stable of background actors who worked at Mo.
Yeah, because they looked fabulous. They always looked great, but there was so much movement, especially as it pertained to the swag of it all, the excitement. All these assistants get free things from this closet. Lots of scenes of cheering and fighting. Yeah. It was like a stampede.
Oh, the stuff in the closet
remember
is
that.
So funny.
But that's a great example of what could have been over the top. Where what does a fight in a closet look like? Are we just arguing over shoes, or are we battling it out? And I think you can't really know what the right...
where you've got someone in a headlock and you're punching
But they also showed me with like a cut and teased hair. So that is to say someone beat me up physically. And I'm like, and I'm holding an ice pack. Like,
so funny.
So it's like, what is that tipping point of real? I think you have to constantly explore it. And I don't think you always get it right. And I think we were still figuring out, especially when there's so many crazy elements.
But it's funny watching it, in succession, in sequence like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, I don't know. And also like we're watching it much faster than a week at a time. But like it doesn't feel like a departure to me.
No.
It feels in line with the show.
So... top look from this episode. So let's talk, that Gucci bag. What is your take on that? Coveted Gucci bag that was like so amazing.
I remember even at the time being like this.
Here's what I love. You and I didn't know enough.
Yeah.
So we're like, I guess that's pretty. I think when you're not around all of it or influenced by it, it's interesting to see what are you present? What are we supposed to think is fabulous? So the Gucci bag was coveted, but did that make it beautiful? I don't know.
I remember loving the what they put the models in.
Wasn't it like round pieces of paper?
Right over their nipples, yeah.
Oh, God,
I thought that was so funny.
That's where you mentioned the era of my tiny shorts.
Yes, and then
there was like a business short out where I would be like constantly buttoned up in multiple belts, and I would wear pants that were this. You used to call them pot holders. You know pot holders where you put things on the stove?
I did?
You used to call them pot holders. You said you're wearing pot holders again. and I was just wearing the
You had
world's
such cute little legs.
But those were small
and did you
shorts.
like have makeup all over your legs?
All over my legs.
Yeah.
Like I was like, paint them. But
they were so tan.
Just paint them. You have to just paint all of that.
Was that paint or like airbrush?
I don't know. It was just like a spackle. It was full on spackle.
Yeah. I had a couple of scenes where I had like tight shorts.
Did you wear tight shorts? Now I want to see
this. There's the
oh wait, the cheerleading
one. Yeah, and they painted me. But now on Shrinking, I wear we do a lot of hiking scenes.
Do you color?
Yeah.
It has to all be even.
I also my hands get red, and they make me paint my hands. They did that on Ugly Betty too. Yeah, they don't like seeing red.
I never noticed that.
I guess I should moisturize my hands more, but it's so annoying to have makeup on your hands.
Was it like cut? And then someone comes in and starts brushing your hands that way. This is why it's hard not to be self-conscious as an actor.
Yeah.
Because when your red, blistering, heinous hands cause everyone to stop, that you're like, that my hand, I never would have looked at your hands like that before.
Disgusting blister hands.
Disgusting blister hands. Okay.
So then we see what Henry wears too.
Which is just like a tie. Like, so in this crazy world, this cute guy in his little tie and his vest and his glasses, it's like, it's perfect. So we've recapped some of the looks.
Yeah.
But Michael, you pointed something out, that as we watch this back, we are crying every episode.
Every episode at some point.
Tears.
I burst into tears.
Yeah, so do I.
And sometimes it's like a really it was like a really moving moment, or somebody gets, treated terribly, which happens a lot on the show.
Yeah.
Betty getting treated terribly, or sometimes it's like a memory. It just like reminds me of something that happened while we were shooting that I really loved, or it's something funny. So for me on this episode, there's a scene in the elevator where Mark comes in, and we were so inventive. We were given so much license to just play and be inventive. And there were all of these wonderful props. We had this incredible production team, production design, art design, and prop team. So there were always these wonderful props. So I had this idea that I was carrying around a giant tube.
A big orange tube.
A big orange tube. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, great, you can use this tube. And so I'm carrying this tube for a few scenes in this episode, and I'm using it to like gesture, and we go into the elevator, and I had this idea that like, I went into the elevator, and that's when I find out that Betty got the Gucci bag, and I wanted it, and I had first dibs, and I should have gotten it, but Christina was hiding it, and I knew it, and I see it on Betty. And I realize that she hid it for her, and I freak out, and Christina stands up to me. Anyway, I turn around, and I figured out how to hold the tube in a way that I could bump
Slam her
in the head.
Yeah. But okay, so to be clear, so you had this bag, and then the tube kind of went like this.
Yeah, I was holding it like
you were
a
holding
baby.
it, but the top of it was not in your line of vision necessarily.
Right, it was over my left shoulder.
So you had to physically figure out how you could go like this and make it look like you didn't, even though we knew you meant to.
Yes.
But you smacked her in the head with that tube.
And then I said, oops.
And oops is the best part. Oops, because you totally meant to do it.
And it made me burst into tears, not because like, oh, Mark's so mean, or because, oh, I was so clever to come up with that, but because it reminded me how inventive we were, and how we were allowed to.
Every scene we were able to come up.
And we always treat, and I'm so, I think I still do, but I hope that I'm still that curious about acting, because it was such a special time, and we were all like kids on a playground.
Mm-hmm.
We were always having such a good time. I guess this episode more so far in the rewatch has reminded me that we were really creating something new and special, and we had the license to do it. And
it's sort of the safety of feeling like it was allowed, because it's hard to do in that environment.
Yeah.
To raise your hand and say, I have an idea, and have people go, sure, what is it? Like that's what a great, that shapes you forever. And I think a lot of your subsequent bravery isn't just from your talent. I think you probably realized right away that you had great ideas, and look at how they turned out. And that is an emotional thing.
Yeah. It was, and it started in the pilot when Vanessa Williams said to me, "What else can I do that you can
but
mimic?"
then you were able to then say, "Well, I have some ideas here."
Yeah, and they took our ideas, and we would have sometimes
so many. They're like less ideas, but we always had them.
Yeah, I remember there were directors that would come and guest directors that would come in, and they would be like, "Whoa, is this what the show is like? That the inmates are running the asylum?"
Right.
And it was, and but it only worked because we all stayed in our lanes.
Yes.
As characters, what Marc and Amanda would do wouldn't work if Betty didn't stay if America wasn't in her lane, or Vanessa wasn't in her lane, or Eric Mabius.
Right. It all had to balance.
Yeah. And it was just a really good company of actors.
I agree.
When did you burst into tears?
So my waterworks moment, there are many. Like I am actually surprised at how emotional this revisit has made me. I hope I don't cry right now. So you know how they would always show to indicate how quickly time was going in night into day.
Yes.
So they would show the New York sky from night into day. It reminded me of how we used to finish shooting on Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. So we would shoot Friday night, and we would finish when the sun was coming up. And I used to call my parents. I know. I'm like, oh. And I forgot because, my father's no longer with us. And I remember I'd call them at 6 a.m. because they were on the East Coast time. And they said, "Why are you awake?" I said, "I haven't gone to sleep yet." And they would always be like, "Oh, wow, showbiz." Wow. And I remember just like, I'm driving home at 6 a.m. from this amazing job. And I would call them, and it would actually be the way I stayed awake. I mean, it was a 2-minute drive home, but it was I just kind of wanted to have, it was so strange to be up all night like that. And I think part of that hit me like how much time has gone by. Because even though I sit next to you and that feels like it was yesterday, I'm like, my dad was alive. Like our lives were different. We were children in a lot of ways. Yeah. And so when I see that night into day, I'm just so, you remember how many times we would shoot right in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, good night. And then we'd always debate, are we supposed to go to sleep now or stay up? Yeah. Like that was another part of this.
Saturday.
Right, which is normal in showbiz, but was so abnormal to me, who'd never stay. Shockingly, I am not a night owl. Like I like to go to bed nice and early. So it was this like, I stayed up all night. Being Amanda in tiny shorts, doing all this crazy silliness. Like, what is a delirious?
Eating pizza at 3
They're like,
in the morning.
It's lunchtime, and it was 2 a.m. And we're like, Michael, free Thai food or whatever. It was like, and I remember like we were so young, and it was so crazy. So anyway, the night into day reminded me of calling my parents on my way home, saying, "Can you just talk to me because I don't want to fall asleep on my way home."
Yeah. I remember on this episode, we were shooting a night shoot. It was the scene where we got to White Castle, and we were there, and it was like I could tell like they needed to wrap us by a certain time.
Right.
Or they were going to have to pay everybody overtime or something like that. And I remember that we were very haphazardly throwing this scene together. And when we got out of the car, we were supposed to look up at the White Castle, which wasn't there. It was just an empty lot. They put it in later.
Depressing.
And we got out and we looked, and I remember they were like, let's go. And people were like losing their tempers. And I remember asking, where are we looking? And one of the producers was like, it doesn't matter.
Oh.
And and I was like, oh.
Doesn't it?
It's tense.
Yeah.
You
were good in those moments.
I'm not going to ask questions like that again.
Right, like where am I supposed to look?
Yeah, I just learned a lesson.
Well, yeah.
Read the room.
It did get tense. Yeah. Like those hours were late, and that's where that gets nervy, especially when you do have a legitimate question. So,
and it is like, like you forget, like this was a Disney show. They had the money, but they were still on a budget.
Of course, because it can't just go on and on and on and on. Right. So it's like things did get tense. It's much fun. And that's where that balance of like, yes, we all had these ideas, but as the episodes went on and everyone had their ideas, we also have to make a show. And it's sort of like, so that was another thing I think that was constantly calibrating of like, yes, we want all this creativity, but we have some long days to shoot, and nobody's laughing at 3 a.m. except me.
But I appreciate, yes, working for Disney, working for Netflix, like you work for Netflix, I work for Apple now. Yeah. Like these pieces have money, they got so much money. And sometimes you think, why, like when you hear, oh, that's not in the budget, or we have to stop, or blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you're like, you get cynical and you think, don't they have the money for that? But I do think it's right. Artistically, I think limitations are good.
Yeah.
I don't think you should have everything at your fingertips.
Right, but also I think, and I've learned this over the years, the idea of like the crew that's been standing there for 18 hours doesn't care that I have another idea. It's like, can we consolidate that creativity and make it efficient? So it's like efficiency and creativity have to work together. And that's like a constant thing to figure out on any successful set. Because
that's a great point.
A 20-hour day, no matter how much fun we're having, I mean, I remember there were sometimes we couldn't stop laughing and I'd look behind the camera and they were like,
I know.
Because people want to go home.
Do you think about that now on set? Because I think about that when you're like now on set, if I'm first up or last up, it's different. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm in the last scene of the day, I think about it differently.
Yeah.
Because I know because I'm a supporting character when you're a supporting character on a show, you're not there all day necessarily, right. And you might
unless you're in court.
But
that's another discussion.
You might be the last scene of the day, but the whole crew have been there all day.
Yes,
and I think of it differently than if I'm in the middle of the day or the first in the day because I don't want. Like I had a scene on Shrinking where I had this big monologue and it was the end of the day. And I mean, I knew that because I was like,
you have to prepare a certain way with a monologue no matter what.
Yes, no matter what. But when you're like I'm thinking about the crew, looking at the script and I want to make sure they know I've got this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever wondered if you've got this.
Well,
I'm just saying like, I think when you show up on a set, people relax. I think so because I never once saw you. I don't think I've ever seen you fumble. I don't think I ever did. My point is like the energy you bring, it's very clear. You're not like wandering into set grumpy and asking for break. You're like, let's do it. And I think that's the energy that's necessary, whatever time of day it is like, let's do this, let's do this.
I thought one more fashion thought I had for this swag episode. Marc and Wilhelmina dress for Oshi.
I noticed
which
that.
Is really cool.
Yes.
It's not spoken about, but you see Marc in monochromatic for the first time ever.
Because he's never monochromatic.
Head to toe tan.
Yes. And Wilhelmina was in like that. Wasn't she in Cream?
Yeah. She was often in monochromatic. At this point, I guess she was kind of always in monochromatic.
No, but I did notice that they specifically were going out of their way to show how in touch with the designer that they were, which it is an interesting creative choice. Cool. It's not just that we want to entertain them, we want to show them that we understand and appreciate their aesthetic.
Yeah,
that's cool.
All right, should we play a game?
Yay! The game is called The Price is Right.
Oh, I love that game.
Don't make me put my glasses on.
$1, Bob.
Yeah. Michael, for today's game, I'm going to have you guess how much some things from the episode cost in real life. This is going to be hysterical.
In 2006 or now?
Ooh, I'm going to go with now. We're going to say now. Okay. And are you good at guessing this kind of thing? No.
How much could a banana cost? $10? You know that line from Arrested Development?
No, but
my favorite.
Okay, hold on. Wait.
Okay, sorry.
Here we go. Okay, first one. This should be easy. It is item number 1, a bagel with cream cheese from a coffee cart in New York City.
A bagel with cream cheese from a coffee cart in New York City is going to cost $4.
$7.
Oh.
Which means it's gone up.
$7?
For a bagel and cream cheese?
And a coffee cart?
Right. That surprises me. I probably would have guessed $5. But then again, water costs $2 from a cart now in New York.
Yeah, I guess so.
So it doesn't not make sense, but oh my God.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Out of touch.
Okay, here we go. Number 2, dinner for 20 at White Castle.
Okay.
Specifically, 20 sliders with cheese and fries. Do we think that's 20? Yeah, 20 fries.
One slider.
So you get a slider with cheese and fries times 20.
That's one slider per person?
Yes, one slider per person with a side of fries. I'm going to go with the side of fries each because you wouldn't get one fries for everybody.
I'm going to say that a slider is $3. So 20 of those, 20 times 3 is $60. And I'm going to say it's $100.
$29.40, assuming everyone only eats one slider. You definitely don't go to White Castle much, right?
Wait, what?
20p. So yeah.
A slider's $1?
Okay, let's do some math here. 20, what is $29.40 divided by 20? Well, let's call it $30. That's basically you're spending $1.50 per person. So for $1.50, you could get fries. I think we should check this math.
Well, it's like 4 orders of fries.
So to be clear, they're sharing the fries. Okay, fine. And like still, that I feel like we need to start going there because that feels like a really good price.
It seems like a great deal.
That does feel like a really good deal. Where'd you get it from?
The Bourbon Room, where I went to see Anna Gasteyer do her Christmas show at the Bourbon Room.
So jealous. But was the burger good?
It was great.
Do you go to In-N-Out?
I love In-N-Out.
I love In-N-Out. Do you remember when Eric Mabius sent an In-N-Out truck to set for Christmas?
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yeah.
A whole truck. How amazing. But that, again, that was the kind of thing I was like, I guess that's what people do in Hollywood. Because that's not normal. We've been in Hollywood a long time. That's the only In-N-Out truck I've ever had on set.
Oh, are you serious?
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
A lot?
I've had In-N-Out. Yeah, at Shrinking, they do that a lot.
You like Harrison sends me.
We get a lot of.
Really? It's like a normal thing?
Yeah. Sometimes you have to because
it's hard. They sell out.
Well, and sometimes you have to say, I'd like to get a donut truck tonight. Is anyone else ordering a truck? And you're like, yeah, Jason ordered a
and so
ice
then
cream truck.
Then you pool together.
Or you just wait till the next night or something.
Number 3, how much is a large Gucci tote bag? What would you guess? A large Gucci tote bag.
Well, in the show, it's $4,500, right?
It did say that in the show.
I think they said it's $4,500.
No, and I don't know if we're counting. This number that's written down here is $2,490. I feel like $4,500 feels more right.
In the show,
it feels more like it would be $4,500. So maybe that particular bag, I don't know what we're accounting for here. What time, maybe a bag from that, maybe that bag now has gone down in price. I don't know. I'm questioning the math, but I have one more for you. Well, how much does a Brazilian butt lift cost in Brazil? Go.
I know this.
You do?
No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
I know this.
I'm gonna say, well, in the show it cost $20,000, right? That was But I think a Brazilian butt lift
nowadays
in Brazil is probably $15,000.
$2,000 to $4,000. We should get them tomorrow.
That doesn't seem safe.
It doesn't seem safe. I feel like that's like the discount. Just to be clear, what is a Brazilian butt lift? Do you put, is it like you put new butt in? Is it like a boob job where there's new butt put in?
Well, it's a lift, right?
Right, so are you lifting current butt? Are you adding butt?
Well, when you got your facelift.
I haven't gotten it yet. Can't you tell?
I think it's like they.
When you got your calf implants, Michael, how did they do it?
I think that they cut open the top of your butt and lift it.
But
so that
to what
it
end?
Sag.
Right, but don't you need to add butt if you want to?
You think that there's an implant?
I think there's some. And what makes it Brazilian? As opposed to a different kind of butt lift?
Isn't it Brazilian? Isn't that a thing?
It's a thing.
The wax?
Yeah, but it has not much to do with the butt. Next question. Okay, how much is dinner for 2 with drinks at Masa Sushi Bar in New York?
Oh, that's going to be a lot. That's going to be, I'm going to go $500.
$2,500. It's $750 per person without taxes or drinks. That's just crazy. That's crazy. It's insane. That better be the best food.
I am so off. Every one of these.
Okay, but these are also, this is so heightened. Who would guess that? Unless you've gone there, which I haven't.
I'm just trying to think of the most expensive dinner for 2 I've ever had.
What's the most expensive dinner for 2 we've ever had?
I want to say the most expensive bill I've ever paid for 2 people was $800. And I was shocked.
That's a lot. In New York, I feel like maybe we had some fancy meals. It was a steakhouse. Yeah.
But I was shocked.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's time for fan questions.
Yes.
This fan question segment is called Confessions.
Oh, I love those.
As you know, every week we respond to a message from one of our listeners asking for advice, sharing dirty secrets, or looking for an answer to their burning questions.
And we would love to hear from you. You can reach out either by email at stilluglypodcast.
You better put those glasses on. There's no L in that.
Okay. You can reach out either by email at stilluglypodcast@gmail.com or over the phone at 347-480-1821.
Today we have someone with a confession. Okay. Michelle from Louisville.
Louisville.
Is it? But it's Colorado. Do they call it?
Oh, in Colorado, it would be Louisville.
It's also Louisville. In Kentucky, they call it Louisville.
Do they say it like that?
That's how they say it.
Say it again.
Louisville.
So then you would argue that Michelle is from where in Colorado?
I think in Colorado they say Louisville.
They're like, it's Louisville. Okay. So what did Michelle in Louisville?
Okay, Michelle said, my dirty secret is that I've never bought underwear. I'm going to throw up.
I already did.
I have gotten them as presents, a couple hand-me-downs when my sisters get a pair they don't like. And honestly, they're so easy to steal. Michelle.
Okay, wait, I have a few things. My first reaction was I barfed in my mouth. The second was, though, it sounds like what she's not saying she takes used underwear. It sounds like her sisters get new underwear that they don't use.
No.
That's what I got from this, is that she somehow finds a way to get free
they get a pair
new
they don't
underwear.
like.
See?
Okay.
See? So she gets the ones they don't like, because I can't fathom. She's gotten them as presents. Hand-me-down. So hand-me-down. It implies like it didn't work out for the sister, so she takes them.
But yeah, she does specify.
But I think what she's really confessing here is that she steals underwear.
Do you steal clothes?
Never.
Oh.
I almost wish I did. Like, I remember.
Well, like not from a store.
No, from a set.
From a set.
No, and I think it's because I've moved so much, and the idea of stuff. More stuff just feels like more laundry. But I regret it sometimes, because I'm seeing like you have your Marc doll, and I don't know where my Amanda doll is. It's somewhere. But so like I just find I let go of stuff, and I don't want to add more stuff.
Do you wear underwear? Do you wear your own underwear?
Yes.
Always.
Unless it's like, we'll change the look of a dress or something like that. So there's always some hung, but I'm A-okay wearing my own underwear.
There's always some.
Always, because in case the ones you're wearing, I don't know what the implication is, but I'm like, I got this. Like I find that, in case maybe some people don't wear underwear, so like, here's some. I don't know the reason, but it's always hung up with the clothes, and I leave it right there. What about you?
It varies.
Sometimes
I'll wear my own underwear, and sometimes I will wear, in the theater.
No one wears underwear.
In the theater, you get sweaty sometimes. And for example, in Once Upon a Mattress, we're going in. In Once Upon a Mattress, I wear a dance belt because I have to dance. And it is actually...
And a dance belt is what?
A dance belt is just really tight underwear.
And the reason is why?
So that your junk stays in place.
As opposed to wobbling around and making the audience like...
Well, or getting caught between, and when you're dancing, or like I do, there's like a lot of tumbling in the show. Like I'm very physical.
Right.
I don't want my manhood to get caught anywhere.
Like in
hurt.
A what?
In between my legs, or like in.
Have you had that problem before? You're like, oh, if I don't wear my dance belt, my junk might get tangled onto the set somehow.
No, not
it's not like
set. No, not
it's,
like
it's like you're in your own, keeping it all
within. Yes, or
got
like,
it.
Like it'll get.
Or for example, your testicles fell out while we were filming. Like you want to keep it contained. You want to know where it all is.
Exactly.
Now I understand.
That episode we haven't gotten to yet.
I can't wait, but I've seen his balls.
We're gonna mention it.
So we're gonna every episode. But so wait, do we think that this person, Michelle, has anything that she should feel ashamed about? So it sounds like the shameful part is the stealing. Right?
Well,
if you steal it from a store, we don't know.
Yeah, if you're stealing it from a store, that's wrong.
Maybe, just.
But like, I like stealing underwear from a set.
Where someone's already paid for it.
Or even like stealing underwear or undershirts.
Stealing on a set, because it's...
No, because you're not going to get that. Like you can't make somebody else wear somebody's underwear.
That's what I'm saying. It's sort of like...
So I think if somebody provides you with underwear on a set...
Or a sister is giving you some they're not using... Michelle, we're A-okay.
Yeah, but if you're going
Don't
into
go to Macy's and like filling up the bag.
We both pick Macy's.
We love Macy's.
If you're going into Macy's and like taking off the security thing.
If it feels wrong, it probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, cutting off security tags, like good sign that you're doing something wrong.
But also, Michelle, I hope that you're
Michelle.
It feels like maybe
feels
this
like
is
a cry for
happening a
help,
lot,
Michelle.
but I just hope you're not wearing underwear for too long, because I think the underwear has a shelf life.
I would say, and I think that's like a different confession.
Yeah.
This one feels specifically about, it's underwear and stealing, the two different discussions. Don't steal, but let's just be mindful. As long as you're provided with ample opportunity to change said underwear, stolen or not stolen, I think you're okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
This has been great.
This has been great.
Swag, what an episode.
Oh my gosh, when it all really started, when the love story, I think, really kicked into high gear.
Yeah.
So I think now how we sign off every episode is we say something nice about each other. What do you want to say about me?
Becki, I like your old lady glasses.
Michael, I love that you love me enough to laugh in my face about my old lady glasses. I was like, he'll tell me the truth. And you looked at them and I saw the eyes go, like, I don't know what to say. Thank you.
Also, you pulled them out of somewhere.
It was you're welcome. Like, I was waiting all morning. I'm going to give you one more moment.
Oh, look at these.
Okay, I'm going to wipe them off of my granny quilt. Okay, honest reaction. Watch. You're not that good of an actor with it. Hey, Michael, do you like my glasses?
Your eyes are so big behind them, too. But this is the other thing. I know your body because I've held you and touched you for many years now, and there's nowhere you could hide those.
Well, they were right here because I was like, I'm not going to put them on in advance because I can only get the true reaction.
How did I not see them? Like,
These are going to make many appearances in our podcast, and every time I'm going to. We will.
Gladys the glasses.
I love that you blinked a lot when I put my glasses on to tell me that these are in fact funny and not cool. I love you.
I love you so much.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Still Ugly is filmed at Rabbit Grin Studios.
Produced by Rabbit Grin Productions.
Music by the one and only Jeff Beal.
Executive produced by Rob Hollis, Jeff Porter, Natalie Hollis.
Creative producer Jesse Thurston.
Video edit and mix master by Chris Fowler.